yeah, I mean, with other careers you don't have to go all the way up to masters, but with psychology you cannot be a psychologist without a master's. I wanna be in your life until the night is over. Hello everybody, welcome to Speak Votomi. Thank you so much for joining me. If it's your first time here, you're absolutely welcome. Once again, this is a place and platform where we chat all things life. And today I wanted to chat to you about the truth about studying psychology within South Africa. So I get about on average 2 DMs a day asking about the psychology stream. And from what I've noticed is a lot of people go into the career and the degree clueless. And I don't mean this is in a negative or a condescending way, because I really was one of those people as well. I moved from studying medicine, and when I dropped out of that, like, psychology was my next option, and I knew very little about what's going on, you know, in the career path and just in the stream. And I found myself here, and when things got rough, I was kind of just like, yo. Luckily for me, it's something that I really wanted to do, and I'm definitely going to be pushing through as much as possible to make sure that I reach that end goal of wanting to be a psychologist. But also at the very same time, I think my heart was going out to people that don't have possibly that support, that don't have that financial backing and standing that they be able to do that, but also that just don't have the option of a career that's not going to get them the money that they need ASAP. Not that you should be going into a career for money, but I understand that a lot of people need to, you know, get out of high school and get into university and get a career that is going to bring them money as soon as possible, because they need to be providing for family or whatever other, you know, financial reason or obligations. And yeah, man, I think just going through everything that I went through, and just, you know, my heart going out to those people, once again, that didn't have either the parents that I had that were supportive throughout, or parents that are able to pay for private institutions and stuff like that. It can be really, really difficult. So I guess I thought, let me make this video so that people know what's going on within psychology. And also, there's a lot of talk about psychology being a useless degree and everything else. So I think that this will also help me clarify all of that. I mean, I did try on TikTok, and those who heard it did, but I think it's also important for us to have the real conversation, because there are problems, I guess, or issues within the degree and within the career path that I'm hoping one day will be sorted out. But currently it is not like that, and can be very, very difficult, especially if you go in not knowing. So basically, I guess this video is just for you to make informed decisions, once again, to know what you're getting yourself into, or possibly getting yourself into, because everybody's journeys are different, and so that you can stick it out and decide that this is a decision that you have made and you're going to stick it through. So this is why I'm creating this video. So let's just I wrote down a few notes so that I don't forget the important things that I need to say. But yeah, once again, disclaimer, I am not a psychologist as yet. But please do take everything that I'm saying today with a pinch of salt, and go and do your research. Please do so. Don't take everything that I'm saying as, you know, the Bible, basically. Go and do your research, and yeah, but this is primarily from my experience and the experience of other people as well. So yeah, and yeah, as I mentioned, the reason for this video is so that you can go in knowing what you're getting yourself into. So just in terms of how the psychology journey or career works, you start off by doing your undergrad, and that is like 3 years if you do it full-time. If you do it part-time, it can be anything between 4 and 6 years, depending on how long you take. And then thereafter, there is your honors year. If you do a normal honors, that's 1 year. If you do it part-time, it's probably 2 years. But if you do a B-Psych equivalent, that is 18 months. B-Psych equivalent is offered at SACAP. It's also offered at Cornerstone as well, and as well as UKZN. Yeah, but I'll make a separate video about that. But yeah, it's basically the same as an honors, and immediately after you can go and do your master's in psychology. And yeah, I mean, with other careers you don't have to go all the way up to masters, but with psychology you cannot be a psychologist without a master's, and thereafter you register with the HPCSA and you practice as a psychologist depending on what stream you went to. There's various, from neuropsychology to clinical psychology, counseling psychology, industrial psychology. And yeah, so that's basically the psychology field. If you're feeling extra and you want the DR next to your name, you go and you do more research and you do your PhD in psychology. So that is a little bit of a summary of the psychology journey and course and how it works. Now, where does the problem start? Okay, getting in from high school is not so bad to get into psychology. I think personally that was my experience. I know other people that experience different, because you know the points are high, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's between 28 and 32 depending on the university that you're applying at. You can get in with maths literacy. You don't need pure maths to get into or study psychology. However, once again, there is a stats module, so you don't escape maths completely, but getting in is relatively okay. However, some of the problems just in general within the country is, you know, thousands and thousands of people write matric, and university entrances are about roughly and on average 11,000, and from there then you have psychology, psychology students from there. Some are doing a general BA, some are taking psychology as an elective, and then you have people that are taking it as a major, hoping to be psychologists. Okay, yeah, so you do undergrad for those 3 years, and there's about hundreds of you in a class, and then you go and you apply for your honors. Now at honors level, this is where it starts getting a bit tricky, because the numbers start to get smaller, and they take in about 40 people, if I'm not mistaken, 40 to 50 depending on the institution. Once again, that's just an average number, and literally, you know, the average that you need, the minimum average or minimum requirement for you to get into study a psychology honors is 65%. Now you get that 65%. I graduated cum laude, remember, and I still didn't get in. And I had a conversation with somebody the other day who was telling me that her average is 83% and she still didn't get into study honors. So you can see how competitive it really is. They take the top applicants that they get. So that already on its own is a problem. So now you're sitting with a BA general or a BA in psychology, and the job prospects are so poor because you don't have any practical experience. You just have the theory. You're not registered with the HPCSA, so very few companies are willing to employ you. And if you're anything like me, I went to UWC. I wasn't allowed to take any HR subjects that would help me or allow me to go and maybe find work in the corporate space. So because of that, the job prospects are like none, to be honest with you. If you do find a job, it's probably not going to be in the field of psychology, so that's another thing. So yeah, that can be one of the things that are challenging, and it's difficult if you don't. I'm not actually even sure what happens if you don't get into honors. Do you try upgrade some of the subjects that you did or not? I don't know. But then there's private institutions, and if you apply on time, because also now those are becoming quite in demand, but if you apply on time, you get into a private institution and you complete your honors. That's the other option that you have. Cool. Now comes masters. Okay, masters, remember we moved from an intake about 40 to 50 people for honors. Now masters is moving to an intake of about 4 to 12 depending on the stream that you want to do. If you want to become a neuropsychologist, that means there are 6 places within the whole of South Africa, because neuropsychology you can only study at UCT in South Africa. So you have to be one of thousands of people that have applied for that stream to get in. So it is pretty difficult. And I mean, I'm not putting aside the fact that, you know, you could be favored and really be one of those people that get in firsthand. It is absolutely not impossible. It's definitely something that can happen for you. But for the people that are not one of those 4, one of those 6, 8 or 12 people that make it into masters, you're once again sitting with 2 degrees and low job prospects once again, because you haven't done anything practical unless you did a BPsych equivalent. Then you can find a job and register and become like a registered counselor. However, if you haven't and you've done a normal honours, job prospects are very difficult as well. Here you're at a point where you probably, if you still want to work in the field of counselling or psychology, you would have to volunteer your skills because you're too much of a risk. You're not registered with the board, you haven't gained practical experience on how to do this that you get at master's level, and you register with the HPCSA to do all of that. So yeah, studying psychology in South Africa is I guess not as glamorous as we make it out to be. Like, there are challenges along the way. However, I really do believe that if this is a stream for you and this is something that you really want to do, things will work out for you. But I think this is where they probably sift out the people that are doing it for the wrong reasons. Like, if you're doing it for, I personally don't feel like it's one of those things that's worth it to just do for the money. If it has to be something that you really want to do, because what's going to happen when you're waiting 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 years to get into masters? That's, if you're doing it for the money, you could have found something else within that time to make money. That there are easier ways to make money, personally, I feel. But yeah, so it is quite difficult, and I think these are some of the things that you must consider. Some people, you know what your financial situation is like at home, or just some of the responsibilities that you have. I know life is not fair, and unfortunately it's not, but I think it's important for you to have this conversation so that you can make decisions that best would suit you. And the reason that psychology is the way that it is in South Africa is because the government only issues 5% of the health budget to mental health. So you would think that with COVID and the lockdown and just the demand for mental health services that are great in this country, you would think that things would have progressed, and I guess the field of psychology would be valued more, and mental health practitioners would be valued a lot more, and more spaces would be created for that, more funding would be directed that way. But unfortunately that is not the case, and I don't know what it is that we possibly could do to make things better. But we know that mental health is not something that's a luxury anymore. I mean, suicide campaigns happen year in and year out, but if we're not dealing, with issues the way that they're supposed to be dealt with, by getting people in that space to be practitioners and to be able to assist people that need that assistance or need those services, yeah, we've got a long way to go, man. We really do have a long way to go, and it's really sad because you know that it's a service that's needed so much in your country, but because of just the system and the way that things have been done, it's just really difficult to get in and to be that person. But like I said, I'm not making this video like all doom and gloom, but just once again to prepare you. And so some people have said to me, like, quite casually, why don't you just go study overseas? So for me personally, my family's here and I feel like my life is here. Like, traveling and whatever is definitely something that I want to do, but I know for a fact that there's only one place that is going to feel like home, and that is South Africa, okay? But also, if in a few years I change my mind and I'm living in another country, y'all are not allowed to use this against me, just saying. But why not just study psychology overseas and then come back? It really does sound like a great idea, especially because I know a lot of I've seen a lot of links where people are able to study overseas, and on scholarships and stuff like that, which is all good and great. But remember that the way psychology is taught in different countries and context varies. South Africa it's taught pretty well because of the diversity and the different backgrounds and the inclusion of topics like your colonization, the apartheid history that we have in our country. So all of those factors are taken into account, and even when you are with a client, you're encouraged to think about all of these other diversity factors that might affect the individual that they are. So not to say that in other countries it's not like that, but I think it's context based. You're gonna focus psychology for the people that you are dealing with. And I know a lot of people that have studied here and are easily accepted overseas because you've done a lot of diversity courses and stuff like that. But also, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because you possibly might even have to learn like another language or just understand the culture of the country that you're going to. So for example, if I were to move from here and to go be a psychologist one day in Dubai, I would probably have to take a few classes to just understand their culture and understand therefore how that contextual or that context would then affect those people's mental health or affect their situation, so that you can be relevant, so that you can continue, you know, doing your job and being empathetic and doing everything else that you're required to do as a psychologist. So that's one of the things. But also if you study overseas and you come back, there is also a placing issue after masters, because you need to do internships and possibly community service depending on the stream of psychology that you do. So the people that are going to be placed first are the people that have studied in the country, and if you have studied overseas and they need you to place you whether in ComServe or you need to do your internship here, you're probably going to struggle with placing. Yeah, and you need to rewrite the board, you need to write the board exams. You can't just come in and believe that you're going to be allowed to practice. So yeah, I mean, there is a possibility that you aren't, but there is a possibility that you are as well. I just personally feel, for me, it's a huge gamble, but if you feel that it's something that you're willing to do and to try out, then I guess that's definitely a factor for you. But maybe you really want to go and you wouldn't mind being a psychologist in a different country. The US is, I guess, one of the most developed as well when it comes to, you know, just the field of psychology, because a lot of the research comes from there, and I know most of my textbooks also come from there, and we use the APA system as well. So if that is something that you want to do, then that is definitely an option for you. But I think you must think very carefully about studying psychology overseas, especially if it's something that you want to come back and practice in South Africa. And so yeah, as I mentioned before, one of the options that you left with if you don't get into masters is volunteering, because just the job prospects are not that great. And yeah, some people can volunteer because they have people that are going to support them financially, and some people are just aren't able to do it because you need to do and find something to make you money. Yeah, and some people have gone 5 times, you know, to master's interviews and, you know, and done applications or whatever, and still have not gotten in. Some people got in firsthand. I actually met someone on TikTok who went in firsthand, and she was just encouraging me to say, you know, it's not impossible, and great, and so excited for her. And I really hope that next time around that I get in. But I think also we cannot be naive or nullify people's experiences. Some people have tried over and over again and have not got in, but as I mentioned before, if it's something that you really want to do, you are going to figure out, and yeah, and make sure that you make it to the end. So I think that's all I wanted to say in this video, but I emphasize once again that this video is not made or created to be all doom and gloom, and it's not created to gatekeep the career, because if you're meant to be here and this is something that you still want to do, go for it. Definitely go for it. We need psychologists, we need you know, registered counselors, we need mental health practitioners in general. Despite the system failures, I would call them, despite the system glitches, despite the system issues and problems and lack of funding, and I guess the lack of value that is placed on mental health and psychologists within South Africa, it is definitely a path that is needed and a career that many people need to get into. And I'm hoping that one day things will be better, and yeah, more people will be able to do something that they're really passionate about, because I know a lot of people that are really passionate about just the career and the stream, but also to just make a difference in the lives of people. So yeah, that's it for me. I really hope that this video was helpful. I know it's not like a happy-go-lucky video, however, I think that it would definitely serve its purpose. Please do share it with somebody in your world, and have yourself a fantastic whatever day of the week it is. Mwah.